And we are live, folks. Oh my goodness. We are live from Minnesota and from Laos. Holy cow. This is like, I think this is my first, oh no, it's not. It's not my first international show on the Shut Up Show, but this is my first international show where we're actually going to get a live tour of a certain place I have been talking about for the last, 9 months. So I'm so excited. Anyway, this is going to be the first episode in the leadership series for the Shut Up Show. And for all of you who have been following us for quite some time now, you know that just a couple of weeks back, the Shut Up Show has gone through a whole rebranding, brand new evolution, and right now we are working on topic-based shows. And so this is going to be about leadership. This is going to be about starting movements. This is going to be about going out there, kicking ass, and realizing that even if you don't feel you have the skills or the experience or the confidence, you can go out into the world and make shit happen and move mountains with other people to help other people in the world live a better life. So that being said, long-winded welcome to my dear friend who I have yet to meet in person, but it will happen very soon, our co-host for today, Tyson Adams. Welcome, Tyson.
Oh, thank you, Bernie. I'm excited to give you a tour of Jai Coffee House. I've actually only given a tour to my parents and my grandparents and like one other friend. So this will be the first recorded tour of Jai Coffee House, and I'll be excited to get this up and show everybody as well. So it'll be great.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I am so excited. I can't tell you how many times I've talked about your story, how many times I've talked about Jai Coffee House, how many times this has come up in conversation. And people, I forget that there are people who were following this journey 9 months ago, Tyson, and people to this day are like, oh, whatever happened to that coffee house in Laos? I'm like, oh, how'd you know about that? They're like, you were talking about it all summer last summer. Did you get it
Yeah.
done? And I'm like, yeah, my friend's over there right now, living it up, making coffee. You told me too, off the cuff. You told me that you know more about coffee than you ever wanted to know in your entire lifetime.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure we talk to you about that too, as it relates to social philanthropy. But anyway, the reason I chose you to be on the show, and I've been wanting to have you on the show for quite some time now, Tyson, is because you have epitomized a leader in so many ways, Tyson. I mean, from the story you told me about the dream that you had that you actually turned into reality last fall, um, to now, like, doing all the things that you can only imagine. It's like guys like you, right? Guys like you, Tyson, would never have an experience like that. And here you are living in another country as a native,
Yeah.
making a difference in the world, making coffee. And oh my gosh, anyway, I'm not going to steal all your time anymore. Let's just get to it. Let's first start by you giving us a tour. First, tell us where you are, what you're doing there, how the hell you got there, and kind of give us a set the foundation and let us know what you're giving us a tour of and how it's going to help the community that you've decided to become a native in.
Yeah. So it is, I guess, tomorrow because in Laos we're about 14 hours ahead. So it's morning, and we're in Pak Song, Laos, which is actually in the south of Laos, and we're at Jai Coffee House. Jai Coffee House is the world's first completely philanthropic coffee roaster and cafe, located directly at the source. The important part of that is that we're right here at the farm, right where the farmers actually are growing the coffee, literally in our backyard. They bring it into us, we roast it up, and we serve it to customers. And then we take all the profits that the cafe generates, and that means 100% of profits, and we invest that into clean water solutions and also hygiene programs in the local villages that are actually growing the coffee. And where we primarily do our work is actually with the children. So we go to the schoolhouses and we implement those clean water solutions in the schoolhouses, which are usually in the center of the village. So it becomes a hub for the other people that live in the village that don't have clean water to use those pumps and to use that water. So that's what we're doing, and we've been living here for 8 months. We built this thing from scratch. Obviously, the existing building was here, but when I take you on the tour, I'll kind of just explain some of the changes that we did and why we did them. And what this whole thing's about. So
I'm so
yeah.
excited. It's so awesome to finally see it almost in the flesh because when I first backed the Indiegogo campaign 9 months ago, Tyson, I had told you behind the scenes that Laos is really close to my heart because that's where my parents and my family, except for me, I was the only one born in America, but that's where my family was born and raised. And so knowing that you were making a difference in the country that my parents fled 37 years ago to find refuge here in America. It meant so much to me personally because
Mhm.
there are so many people that I don't personally know that I know that my family personally knows that is going to benefit from all the help that you guys are
Mhm.
offering. And I want to tell you something for the first time here that I haven't told you yet, and I just found out recently. My dad and I were talking last week, and he told me that he heard on Lao radio that there was this young American couple that was making coffee in Laos. And
Wow,
I
that's crazy.
said, Dad, I know him. That's my friend. I know him. And my
Wow.
dad was so excited. And so he and I had, like, I'm not even kidding, like a 30-minute conversation on our drive down from the Twin Cities to where I live. And he was just so excited telling me about the way, like how thankful he is when Americans would come to the country and help the children and help the community, and how the community really loves philanthropic things like that. They're so appreciative of it. And so to hear my dad say that, it was just absolutely amazing to me. And me being able to say, Dad, I helped in that effort. I was a part of that. It made me
That's
so
crazy.
proud to be able to do something that my dad could finally say, okay, Bertie, now I understand what you're doing. So,
Jeez,
so
that's
thank you from
crazy.
the bottom of my heart. You and Janelle, you guys are absolutely amazing and you inspire me. So, okay, so why don't you go ahead and take us on the tour and
All right.
explain to us what we're looking at and what's going on.
All right. So this is kind of the entrance of the cafe when you walk in. We got the Jai logo there in the front. But as you walk into the cafe, it's a little bit messy here. And the reason why is we're actually doing a really beautiful mural. Sarah Steenland, she's a misfit, of course. She drew us this incredible mural, which we're painting. We're in the process of painting, of course. And then this is really just kind of the cafe as you walk in. You have the coffee bar here on the left with really, there's Janelle. She's making coffee. and and so that's kind of where most people gravitate towards when they come in. They come in, they sit down, they order a cup of coffee, and then they usually either come over here and take a seat in our kind of like, it's a raised platform area, and they can sit and hang out. Or if they're hungry, usually they walk over here to the kitchen where we have a separate menu. Right now we just have a few things on our items: beautiful cinnamon banana French toast, scrambled egg
Mm.
sandwich, and muesli fresh fruit and yogurt. We got our coffee bags from this year. This coffee is going to the U.S., so you'll be able to get that here shortly from our partner Thanksgiving Coffee. So we hang that up. There's Lynn. He's doing the dishes. And then this is our kitchen. The cool thing about this, let me take a step back, is where you see this structure right here, that used to be the end of the wall. So when we first landed here 8 months ago, this was just an old house that basically needed to be fixed up in order for it to be a cafe. So we ripped out that wall, and then we built this entire area. So what we have here is a men's and women's toilet. So that's the women's toilet, and the men's is right in that room. And then we have the sink out here for everyone. And then we actually built in a shower for ourselves as well, so we can actually take hot showers, which is wonderful. But yeah, we constructed this entirely by ourselves. There was a removed kitchen that was in the back, and we ripped it down. We recycled all the wood. We painted it white, put it up here, put a little skylight there so that we could let some natural light in. And then we built everything that you see, basically. So we built these, the actual coffee, or I guess it's the kitchen bar, along with the tables. We built the sink. We purchased all the appliances in order to get the cafe up and going. And we did the same thing as well for Oh, I think I forgot my coffee over here. We did the same thing over here um, for the coffee bar. We basically took well, Jackie and I, our Lao partner, he speaks great English. We went out to the lumber mill. We actually purchased this wood, and then we worked with a local welder to build our coffee bar and all the stools, along with our A-frame, which is a really beautiful just kind of storage area for all of our coffee stuff. We took this really beautiful, sincere, it's not a singer, it's actually a sincere old sewing machine, made it into a table. We got some really beautiful pieces of old wood that they were just going to throw away, made it into nice tables.
Wow.
And then we went into Thailand and we got a bunch of instruments. You know, we got a guitar, we got drums, we got flutes and shakers, beautiful Laos
You are
xylophone.
such a hippie.
Yeah, for
I love
sure.
it. I love it.
Because we really wanted to have the community come together and play music and hang out, and that's what's happened. The other thing we had to do is we had to knock out this wall to put in a window. We actually had to build a new staircase, which I've never built a staircase. I actually went on to Bob Vila's YouTube channel to learn how to build a staircase. I
Oh
had
my
never
gosh.
done that. We also, knocked out that wall and put in a door. And then the other thing that's really cool is that this used to just be tile. So Jackie and I spent at least 2 weeks, and we put in an incredible, beautiful hardwood floor in order to have a really nice feel. Like lots of people ask, do they have to take their shoes off? And we always say no, but that's the kind of feel you get when you walk in here. Um, and then I'll just focus on this for a second. That's our TerraClear. Those are our clay water filters. The importance of these is because these are the actual filters that we are implementing out into the community. Let me just give you a little shot of this. What it is essentially is a clay filter where you can put straight river water or any contaminated water into this device, and then basically that clay filter sits in this jug, and the water slowly drips down into this holding tank here, where you can actually get 99.9% clean water. It's essentially purified, free of bacteria, free of contaminants. And it's an American engineering company that lives here actually in Laos that we've partnered with for this part of our business. And it's amazing because now we can take one of these jugs, put it into a school, and the schools can have clean water for, up to 5 years these things work. So it's a really
Wow.
impressive device, and it's been great working with them and partnering with them. And then less of the coffee stuff. No tourists get to see this, but this actually is where we live. So we live upstairs. We haven't really decorated too much, but it's kind of just an open area. It's our bed with our mosquito net hanging down. Here's all of our jugs piled up. These are going to be going out to 30 different schools here in the next few weeks. We're
I
sorting
have to
out.
ask you, do you ever miss living in Seattle?
Well, yeah, I'll be back in Seattle because I'll be actually back in Seattle in a few weeks because the raining season doesn't really allow for any tourists to be here.
Right.
So yeah, but I don't know. I'd say it's pretty amazing living here for sure. Other than the fact that when it rains, it's super loud because it's just a tin roof. And then we have a little guest bed. Sheets are in the wash, so you can't really see that. And then we have our closet, which is actually very nice and big. It's a walk-in closet. But out of our back window, you can see coffee trees, coffee plantation right there.
Oh,
It's
wow.
quite nice. And then the last thing to show is our incredible upper deck area. So when you open up our window, which we may actually make this into a door at some point, I'm just going to climb out the window because that's what I usually do. Yeah, we have this beautiful balcony that we created, and it provides another little seating area for tourists that come that want to hang out. Nice table. We brought a bunch of plants up here, and We have our papaya tree that's actually growing through the floor. We didn't want to cut that down, so we just made a hole. And then, yeah, this is the staircase which leads back down to the front. Jackie, say hello. Hello. Say savadi. Savadi. Yeah, so there's Jackie, and then going back up, you just have the natural sort of crazy Lao, road where people are riding by on their motorbikes with their helmets off, and dogs are almost getting hit by cars, and water buffaloes and cows are just roaming down the street. But that's basically it. That's Jai.
Oh, wow.
Jai Coffee House.
That's
And
fantastic. Yeah, I was trying not to talk because it shows my face every
no,
time I talk, so I was trying not to talk.
oh, it's good. Any we got chickens everywhere. Any like thoughts that jump out at you that
Yeah.
are interesting?
I'll let you find a good spot where you want to sit
Okay.
first, and then I have
Yeah,
a
let
few
me.
follow-up questions for you.
Cool. I'll just sit over here. We also built a little teepee, which is more just for catching people's eye when they drive by. It's the only teepee that exists in Laos, probably.
Yeah, I was like, do they exist there? Well, apparently they do now.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
wow. Okay. So yeah, I'm just so blown away. It's just, isn't it amazing, Tyson, how technology is so advanced now that, people like us can have conversations from all across the world about something that we actually helped each other with using social media, right? To make
Of
that thing
course.
happen. And so I think the question in people's minds by this point, if they haven't followed the Jai story, if they haven't followed the story of Tyson Adams and Janelle, what was the big problem? What was the big need that surfaced and created this opportunity for you to build Jai Coffee House?
Yeah, Laos, unfortunately, has a kind of a crazy history, of course. During the Vietnam War, U.S. dropped bombs on Laos because they were fighting against Vietnam, and so during that time, they basically dropped a bomb every 8.5 minutes for 9 straight years. It's around $15 million in bombs per day. So Laos was already the poorest country in Southeast Asia, but it only compounded the issue. And so really what you're seeing here in Laos, if you're on the, if you're out here, you're living or you're backpacking, you're gonna experience a very beautiful, very friendly, very happy culture, but you're also seeing a culture that, only 1 in 2 people have access to toilets. The majority of kids don't have access to hygiene education or clean water, and especially not at their schools. And so the real big issue is that leads directly to diarrhea, diarrheal disease, being the number 2 killer of Lao children. So it's one of those things that it's a staggering statistic because, you have, like Laos actually during the monsoon season, it rains a lot. So it's not like Africa where it's the desert and people are needing to, walk 20, 30 miles to get water. That's not the story here. The story is more that they have access to water. It's just that it's not clean. So it's not drinkable water. So what we're really assisting with, and what we have been here doing is getting the water to be clean enough to drink, through providing access with clean water wells and clay filters, but also doing hygiene programs where we just teach children how to wash their hands, which is a very basic thing, but here it's not. Children don't understand how to wash their hands, and in fact have never been taught. So that's an interesting wake up, when we do our hygiene programs and the kids don't even know what they're doing with utilizing soap. They've never used soap and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what the main problem is here in Laos.
Right, right. And I can't imagine that you grew up as a kid saying, someday when I grow up, I'm going to go and build the world's first philanthropic coffee roaster at the source, right? Where did
Yeah.
you conceive of this idea? And I love this story. If you could kind of walk us through how Jai Coffee House was born in your mind.
Yeah, yeah. So do you want me to take it all the way back, or you want me to take you just to the
Take,
Jai Coffee House
I mean,
story?
I would love for you to take it all the way back, but let's just kind of do like Reader's Digest version.
Okay, yeah, 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 no problem. So I backpacked through Southeast Asia 5 years ago. While in Southeast Asia, I kind of similar to, let's say, AJ, or similar even to you, Bernie, like I escaped a sales job where I was working in a cubicle and just had basically grown beyond where I really wanted to be. And so I came over here just to kind of get to know myself, stay for as long as I could possibly stay. And I ended up doing 4 months in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And while in Laos, I actually started dream journaling. And probably about 3 weeks into my dream journaling, I actually had this crazy whacked out experience where I envisioned this business that I had in Seattle where I would basically import coffee from Laos and other countries in Southeast Asia, and then I would sell it by having drive-through coffee stands where people would actually drive up in the car and buy coffee, but there was a digital board that would essentially show a little movie of the children in the village playing or doing whatever, and that they would know that a certain percentage of their coffee purchase was going back to support education for that village or that community. And so it was kind of a whacked out experience because when you get a dream that speaks in a way that's almost convicting, you feel obligated to at least see where it might lead. And so I decided to jump on the internet and realize that there was coffee in Laos. And so I actually peeled out, drove, like basically spent the rest of my visa trying to pursue this dream. Rented a motorbike, came out here into the community, met the community, found a way that I could actually supply it back to Seattle, and then I didn't end up building the business model that I saw in my dream, but what I did do was what was called a one bag, one book model. So for every bag of coffee that I was selling in Seattle, I was providing a book back to Laos. And so over the course of a couple years, we built 8 libraries out in the community to support education and to support creativity for the kids to be able to have a storybook for the first time in their lives. And then really what ended up happening is that as we were coming back and forth over the last 5 years, I started seeing that the community itself was really not a book culture. They were, they had the books, they had the resources, but they weren't implementing them in school. Part of that is that teachers don't know how to utilize books. They don't know how to they don't understand the value and the importance of them, and so it really actually became wasted aid a little bit because we had implemented these resources, but they just weren't being used. And there was a few villages that used them better than others, but as a kind of general sort of observation, it wasn't really working. And so what we said was, okay, well, shit, if the books aren't working, what other sort of things and issues do we see that are existing in this community? And almost every single village has a water issue. Then we started doing more research, more analysis, and realizing, holy shit, yeah, like diarrhea is a huge issue, hygiene education is a huge issue. No matter where you go in Laos, there's never a child that doesn't need to have access to some basic education, and they just weren't being provided that. So that's when really the whole model shifted more to water and to hygiene education as opposed to just books. And yeah, from there, Dry Coffee House kind of grew out of that need and that realization. Yeah. So, anyways, I could continue talking about it. I have like a million other things to say, but to keep
Well,
it short, that's
yeah,
it.
I love it. I always love hearing that story because it's kind of like I just had a dream and the business was built in my dream and I'm like, "Oh, I hate you," because I envy people like you. You know, I envy people like you where you're like, "I know what I want to do. Here it is." And you know what? I actually have the smarts to figure out how to do it. But here's the other thing. Here's the other reason why I hate you, but I love you to that is you know this story, but some might not. But you and I were following AJ and Melissa Leon of Misfit Inc. for, a couple of years there, at least in my experience. I don't know about you. And when the opportunity came about, which was a very rare opportunity to win this once in a lifetime opportunity to work with the Misfits, have a brand new website, have strategic, consulting, and launch your project, whatever that thing is, somewhere between $30,000 to $50,000 is the value of this prize. I was so excited to apply for that opportunity, and I lost. and and I know you laugh at me. You're like, Bernie, you did not lose, but I lost. And I was like, who is this Tyson Adams who won this freaking, opportunity? I'm going to go and stalk him and see, what makes him so great. And you know what, Tyson? I fell in love with your project. I fell in love with the work you're doing. And the fact that you happen to be pretty damn cool yourself, I was like, okay, no more hating. Join him. However you can
Yeah,
help,
yeah.
however you can get involved, join him. So you've heard the story before, but that's the reason why I got involved, and that's the reason why I raised my hand and I said, hey, what do you need from me? How can I help you? And I can honestly say, Tyson, you have given me back just as much help and support as I know that I did for you for Jai Coffee House. So, I just wanted to officially thank you again here formally on the show because it's people like you who inspired me to keep going, and it's people like you who, even if I lose in a once in a lifetime opportunity like that, I still feel like a winner because I got to be a great part of your project and helping you make it happen. So thank you for the
For sure.
opportunity.
Yeah, of course. No, it's I'll just take you back to that moment because I think that it's actually an important moment. At least it was for me and Janelle emotionally because when you apply for, when I guess it was really my application, but it was a 9-page business plan of what I wanted to do to build Jai Coffee House, and 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 the thing is that when I first started, I was like, Janelle, you realize that if I win this, we have to move to Laos. And she's like, yeah, it'll be fun. And I'm like, you realize we have to live in Laos. Like, that's not like a small commitment. That's a life-changing thing. And she's like, yeah. And I was just like, all right. So I went forward. But when we were actually on the way to the airport, flying home from Arizona, and we were in my dad's truck, and I didn't want to read the email with my dad there because I was just like, oh my gosh, I'll wait till we're on the plane. Janelle and I will be sitting next to each other. I'll open the email. We'll see, what it says. I wasn't really crossing my fingers, but at the same time, I put a lot of time and energy into it. And so we were sitting there on the plane, and when I opened up the email, I was just like, holy shit, like, oh my God, like in complete disbelief, and I was, really, I guess you could say I was torn, because my life was in Seattle, and all of a sudden I have to go to Laos, and of course I was excited, but I was like, holy shit, now this whole journey has just begun. I have to fundraise, 30, 50, $100,000. How the hell am I going to do that? And it was this like mountainous, crazy sort of, it seemed like it was going to be impossible to pull off, even if I won. And I did, and so then I was just like, oh my gosh, now I have to, I'm committed to doing this. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that it wasn't really the most joyous moment of my life to win Misfit Camp. It only began
Wah,
the worst.
wah, wah. I'm just
No,
kidding.
no, no. It was hard. It was a whole year of planning to make this thing happen before we moved over here. And then you and I met about 6 months into that planning. But I mean, it was crazy. It was really challenging, but amazing too. So
Yeah, kudos to you. I mean, you deserve it. I mean, I say it was 9 months ago, but that was 9 months ago for me from when
yeah.
I got involved and helped you. But I know you have been doing Live Local for a few years now, and then for the Jai project itself, I know you'd been working on it, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8 months before I started working with you on it, and so I know that you've dedicated a large chunk of your life. It's like you put your social life on hold, right? To make your dream
Yeah.
come true, and it hasn't stopped, right? It's been nonstop. I'm sure for the past, I don't know what, 18 plus months. How long has it been since you started the Jai project?
Well, I won. Okay, so a month ago we hit 1 year on our Jai Coffee House Facebook page. It informed me or whatever, and I was like, holy shit. And then basically Misfit Camp was won about 6 months before that. So
Okay.
essentially we're about a month or a year and a half into the conception of Jai Coffee House, and kind of the implementation of everything. But oh, just a wild adventure. One of the things that I I feel compelled to share, but I don't think I would share it with anybody that was interviewing me, and I actually do hope to get a chance to also share this, in a few weeks at Misfit Conference, which is that I filed my taxes in Laos for 2013 a few weeks ago, and it was kind of a weird moment for me. I filed my taxes and I made 2,300 US dollars in the year of 2013. and I and I thought to myself, wow, it doesn't take much money to live in this world in that moment. But at the same time, I was like, holy shit, I literally have just dedicated an entire year of my life to people here in Laos that not only don't understand me and that I don't understand entirely, that will reap the benefits for years to come, but that also can't even thank me for what we're doing. Like, they kind of understand, but they don't. They, we're not. I can have a few personal connections with a few of the cooperative farmers and things, but a lot of the children, we come in, we do a project, and we leave, and we visit once in a while. But the reality is that to, like you said, to put your social life on hold, to put your material life on hold, to completely set aside your own sort of tangible, like, I'm going to grow my bank account, or I'm going to invest in myself, I'm going to make money, I'm going to like build my future, to put all that aside and to just give an entire year of your life without receiving anything back kind of freaked me out. But it also was like, okay, this is what it means to be a loving, like, human in this world, meaning that we're all just take, 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 take. I'm only going to give if I can get something in return. And it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of was this weird, actually it was a few days that I was kind of in this weird state. But the interesting thing that I've kind of come away from this experience about is that there's a really beautiful quote, and it's by I think his name's John Ruskin, but it's that it's not what we are, it's not the reward for our toil, but what we become by it. And I think that that's an important quote, because there is no tangible reward that I'm getting financially out of this. I literally have dedicated an entire year of my creative energy, both emotionally, spiritually, and physically, but also just trying to help this community get back on its feet and continue to move forward. And I'm not getting anything, but what most people won't ever see unless they put themselves on this path is that what I've become and what has happened to me, the transformation that has taken place in my own existence, is so immeasurable, and it will never leave me, and I'll never ever regret that year of putting my life on hold for this experience. And it's been more than a crazy experience of being able to be here and to develop relationships and earn respect and work with these communities in a beautiful way. So I guess that's really the main kind of punchy part of this interview that I wanted to get out to, not only to you, Bernie, personally, but also just to the community in general, that, like, you'll never know what you'll become until you serve and until you actually just give up your life for somebody else for at least a period in your life. So
Right.
yeah,
You can't see my face, but I have the biggest grin, like the biggest smile on my face, because this is exactly why I decided to label this segment the leadership series, because honestly, Tyson, there's so many things I could have called this episode. You know, we could have talked about starting a movement, which that's what it is. We could have talked about, you know, how did you have a successful Indiegogo campaign? How did you strategize and create the vision for your business? We could have talked about so many things, but I think the biggest thing that I took away from working with you, reading your writing every week, following your journey, and being a part of the Jai Coffee House project is that you were a leader. You had to step up and do something, frankly, nobody's done before, because this is the world's first philanthropic coffee roaster, okay? So that in itself I know is scary, because you had nobody really to model after, right? To know that you're going down the right path. But you did model after some other things, you know, such as the social, you know, business model. So I mean that
yeah,
helped you. You know, you read a lot of books, you followed a lot of, you know, great philosophies on how to do this the right way. But at the end of the day, you still had to just do it. You had to take
yeah,
action, because I think the best way for anybody to learn is to just go and just do it. Learn from the mistakes. You stumble along the way, but you get right back up. And you know, this would be a 2-hour show if we talked about all the challenges you've had. Okay.
yeah, yeah, for
But
sure.
I'll tell you right now, I know of your challenges, very, very many emotional challenges, and you kept getting right back up and reminding yourself and reminding the people in your tribe, the Jai tribe, that you are a leader and that you are a strong leader and that you're going to keep moving forward and you're going to keep doing the work that you're meant to do. And for me, I find that humbling and I find that inspiring, Tyson, because I may not ever step on, you know, the doorstep of Jai Coffee House. I hope I do. Um, but just your story alone has inspired me to start some of my own movements, right? To go out and make a difference, to write the book I've been meaning to write, to help the
Hmm.
people that I want to help without expecting anything in return, to
Yep.
serve people and do things without always expecting monetary rewards. And it's people like you, and you and I both can relate, also people like AJ and Melissa Leon, who inspire us to keep doing it, because then we know we're not on our you know, own lone island doing this. And I think that that was probably the roughest thing for me, Tyson, when I left corporate America and I left my sales job and I started coaching. I think the biggest challenge for me was nobody gets it, nobody understands. I'm doing this all by myself. You know, why the hell do I even show up today? Nobody cares, right? But then I see people like you and I see people like AJ, and I'm like, that's bullshit. There are people like me. You know what? I'm going to keep doing this. If he's doing it, if Tyson's in Laos doing it, I'm going to do it here, wherever I am.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let me ask you, what did carry you through the toughest times? I mean, you've lost really, you know, wonderful animals in your life. I'm so sad about that. Reading that story really, you know, broke my heart. A
Yeah.
lot of financial stress. You know, vandalism, burglaries. I mean, lots of different things. I'm sure there's more than what I've just mentioned there. But how did you get through all of these hard times, Tyson, and not want to pack up your bags and leave and go back to Seattle again?
Yeah. Um, I could take this in so many directions. I think that, oh my gosh, I could answer in so many ways. Grace is a huge part of it. Um, I'll I'll focus on one particular story. We have a worker who has stolen from us, and I basically opened it up to the Jai tribe to say, hey, should I fire this guy or should we keep him on? And you know, basically it was split. Half the people said fire him, half the people said, well, you know, maybe you should work with him. And recently I went out to his village and I saw the life that he grew up in, meaning I saw the house that he used to live in. And essentially it was one room open to the elements, and there was 2 years of his stuff that rats had made nests in, that bugs and everything, you know, mildew. And he was taking all this stuff. He was grabbing it. He was going to take it back home. And I just realized in that moment that, you know, it, I'm never going to be poor, and I've never been poor. And I cannot even relate to what freedom is, because when you live in Laos, it's a very different relationship with freedom than we have growing up in America. I can always go back to America. It's very different than not only being poor, but also being living in Laos. And so I guess what I'm saying is that the thing that has gotten me through all this is that we all have these sort of cultural norms, and we all have these sort of ways that we just look at life, and we're on autopilot with the way that we think. But we have to constantly evolve and grow and let go of what we think is right or wrong, because the reality is that, you know, Lynn, our worker, his parents told him to steal to feed himself as a child. Like, I'm certain of it now. And so how is it that he becomes an adult and is going to break that cycle of stealing? I mean, like, it was permitted as a child. And so I guess what I'm saying is that every hardship that we've had, whether it's a stolen motorbike, or, you know, an animal dying, or, you know, being stolen from, has been a learning experience for me, where instead of like bashing my head against it and being upset, it's like, okay, this is the reality. Even though it doesn't meet my expectations of what I wanted, this is the reality. So what is there to gain? What is there to learn? And how might I approach and look at this from a different angle in order to evolve both emotionally and soulfully, but also to see that my world is so very different than the world that these people live in. And there's no way that even if I spoke Lao, there's a cultural barrier that we must accept. And that even goes for people that maybe your friends in the US that are growing up in a different family or a different culture or a different kind of way. So grace is a huge part of it, just accepting that you are so different than everybody else, and that's unique, and that's beautiful. And so you just you just have to be patient. It's hard. Like,
You are
meditate,
you are such a
pray.
beautiful human being. Seriously, you are such a beautiful human being. I don't know how many times I've gotten your newsletters in my inbox, and I have like been near tears every single time, Tyson. And I don't know if you mean to do that, or if you're just, I know you're writing from the heart, but I don't know if you realize how compelling and how powerful your words are, because I read your writing and I'm just like, how do I top that? And I don't mean it in a competitive way, but I'm just kind of like, Bernie, the shit that you were bitching about this week is nothing in
Yeah.
comparison to that. So again, thank you. It's so humbling for me to see the things that you're going through and to follow your journey and to hear your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings out on that. Well, it's not really a piece of paper, but to me, I feel like you're writing a letter to me,
Hmm.
and I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your honesty, because it can't be easy for you to talk about all of these things and you're processing your thoughts out loud in front of the whole Jai tribe. I mean,
Yeah.
that's scary. But thank you, because that
Yeah.
makes you more real. That makes you more relatable, and that makes me fall in love with your story and your mission even more. And that makes me want to stay in Jai tribe. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Cool. Thanks, Bernie.
You're welcome. Thank you. So, okay, so to kind of wrap up here, I know that we kind of, went a little long there, and I apologize for those who, will be listening a little bit longer than our normal episodes, but it's so important, you guys. It is so important that we needed to capture Tyson's whole story. Like I said, this could have easily been a 2 hour, episode. But I'm for sure we'll have Tyson back talking again. But Tyson, I always like to leave the audience with an action item so that we can make this episode tactical for them, something they can wrap their head around and something they can incorporate into their world and their life, and they can begin doing and seeing change and seeing positive impact happen. If there's one takeaway you want to impart on the audience, what would that be?
Yeah, it's interesting because I keep going back to this, and it seems like almost every time I go back to it, it just further proves itself true. And I think the one thing that I would say is the takeaway for me is don't ask for permission. You know, like there's too many naysayers in this world. There's too many family members that are going to tell you it can't be financially possible. It's going to hold you back. Yes, of course, it's important to validate what business model it is you're trying to create, or movement you're trying to create, or blog you're trying to launch, or whatever. I'm not saying be reckless or be stupid, but just don't go ask for approval from your family and your friends before you decide to actually make shit happen. You know, similar to what you're trying to say. It's like there's one thing, which is that you got to just make shit happen, but the other thing is stop bringing in people into your life and opinions into your life that aren't going to facilitate the transformation that you ultimately know is deep within inside of you, that you feel that burning, you know, passion to go do. So that's my takeaway that I would impart with everyone.
I love it. That's perfect. And as you know, I gave you the unabridged version of my book. That's one of the three themes in
Yeah.
my book, and I totally get it. And I think another way that some people might call it is, some people think that some people are born lucky, right? Some people are born with, like, the silver spoon in their mouth, or that they don't have to work very hard. They're lucky. They just get whatever they want. And, I beg to differ. I believe that everybody does have an opportunity, and some choose to accept those opportunities, and I think some wait to be given an opportunity. And I think that's pretty much what you're saying, is stop waiting. Stop
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to ask you. Stop waiting to be picked. If you want it, go out and get it. And that's obviously what you did. And
Yeah.
here we are 18 months later. You're in Laos. It's
Yeah.
nuts. I still can't wrap my head around that, but I'm, yeah, inspired, definitely. So to close out here, what I know you're working on Jai Coffee House, but how can audience members learn a little bit more about the Jai project? If there's any other way they can continue to support the project, go ahead and pimp up the business and let us know where we can find you and help.
Email me directly. I will respond. I would prefer that. If you were interested or you were moved at all by any of this information, just send me an email, and then I will 100% respond, and we can connect in whatever fashion or form that uh, becomes good for that individual. Because I think that everybody is desiring real relationships, and I want to be real on the other side of that interaction. So.
Okay, so can you tell everybody what your email address is?
Yeah, it's Tyson at jaicoffeehouse.com.
Okay, so that's Tyson at JHAIcoffeehouse.com. So you guys heard it. And Tyson's really good at replying. I mean, obviously he's 11 hours behind me. I'm in Central Time, U.S. Central Time. But he's very responsive. So if he's going to offer that, you guys take him on that offer. He's
Yeah.
amazing. Tyson is super smart, cool dude. And again, one of the nicest guys I've ever met, nicest people I've ever met. And I can't wait to meet you in person. The week that
Yeah,
this launches, hopefully by
yeah,
that point you and I would have met or will be meeting. So
for
I
sure.
can't wait for that. Tyson, thank you so much for giving us a tour of Jai Coffee House. Thank you and Janelle so much for everything that you guys do, and I can't wait to continue to see the success of Jai Coffee House. And I'll make sure that I can get some photos from you, and we can include that in the show notes for this, just in case the video didn't work out too well. Cool?
Cool, perfect.
Awesome. Well, that's another episode of, I was going to say Jai Coffee House. That was another episode of The Shut Up Show. I'm your host, Bernie Shung, with our co-host today, Tyson Adams, live from Laos. And we'll see you next week, folks. Thanks.